What's happening, betters? In this video, I'm going to give you the best bets to be had this weekend in both rugby and boxing. Some nice plus money prices in there as well. So make sure and stick around as we do a deep dive into some of the key matchups for this weekend, both on the pitch and in the ring. Now, in terms of last week's results, we gave out Justice Hooney to win by decision at plus 470 over Fabio Wardley. And how close were we to hitting that one? For those of you who watched the boxing match, Justice Hooney basically cruising through that fight. Even saw people such as Michael Conlon and others tweeting out to just stop the fight. It was that one-sided, but out of nowhere, boom, that straight right hand lands almost like an anchor punch. Just completely obliterated Hooney, and that's all she wrote. But I would say the word is out now on Hooney, no question. We definitely won't be seeing plus 470s on him again unless he fights the very top of the division. Real talent in the ring. And Wardley, you'd have to say, yes, his power got him out of trouble once again, but he did look, almost clueless for large parts of that fight, being forced back onto his back foot. You would imagine the top guys in the division will be taking notes of that Hooney performance and will adjust accordingly should Wardley come up against them in their crosshairs. In terms of this weekend's boxing action, however, probably the pick of the bunch is Richardson Hitchins defend his belt against former unified 135-pound champ George Kambosos on Saturday. Hitchins to me wins this fight quite convincingly. I'm having a hard time to see how Kambosos can be competitive here. Not surprising, obviously, considering Hitchins is the minus 1250 favourite to win this fight. But, I won a big 4% underdog play on Hitchins when he fought Liam Parrow back in December. Even money, I believe, for that one. And look, I like Hitchins. I think he's got one of the best jobs in the entire sport. Never mind just at 140, although, it could be argued it's fairly stationary. Kambosos as well, has arguably lost 4 of his last five fights. He lost 2 wide decisions against Devin Haney down in Australia. He got completely undressed and stopped by Lomachenko in their fight down under last year as well. And he was extremely fortunate to get the nod over Maxi Hughes back in 2023 also. I thought Hughes won that fight. So, struggling to see a Kambosos victory this weekend. But even taking those 2 factors out of the equation here, this is just a terrible stylistic matchup for Kambosos. Not sure who's advising him to take these fights. Kambosos is a counterpuncher. At the end of the day, he needs a guy kind of like Mickey Bay or Teofimo Lopez to be in there throwing shots at him so, he can do his thing. Hitchins just isn't that guy. Hitchins is going to sit behind that jab all night long. He's got a better jab than Haney, in my opinion, as well. So while it is possible for a front foot heavy fighter to break a jab open, you just have to look at the problems Gustavo Limos gave Richardson Hitchins last year. But that's not Kambosos. He's a counter puncher, as we mentioned, and he likely have nothing to counter here. So this really all boils down to whether or not Hitchins can stop Kambosos in my eyes, and I'm leaning on the side that he can't. Kambosos, in fairness, has only been stopped once across his career so far. That coming against Lomachenko, as we mentioned. No shame in that. And while this is a new weight class for Kambosos, I nevertheless believe, he'll hang around in this one in what should be, at least in my eyes, a wide points decision for Hitchins. So Hitchins to win on points for me at the current price of minus 185. It is a steep price, but it's fair in my opinion. So that's the way I'll look for Saturday. By the way, if you're enjoying the breakdown so far, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It always, it's very much appreciated. And let me know down in the comments below what you're betting this weekend as well. In terms of rugby for Saturday, Major League lines are back up, thankfully, after missing last weekend, at least some of them at least. And that's a good thing as well, as we came off, a pretty scorching winner on the show last weekend in rugby. We gave out Racing 92 plus 12.5 to cover on the road against Lyon over in the French top 14. And Racing not only covered that game, they won it outright. So congrats to those of you who tailed that play, locked it in. Even better if you, unlike me, sprinkled some on the money line as well. Got a big price there. But for this weekend, we're back to looking at Major League Rugby over in the US. And I like 2 players here on Saturday. I can't really decide which of them I like more, to be honest. Firstly, Chicago Hounds at home against Old Glory. You can get the Hounds at minus 4.5 right now, around minus 115. We're into the quarterfinal stage of the playoffs now, obviously. 2 versus 3 over in the East. And I expect the Hounds to get the job done here. Offensively, both of these teams rank fairly closely on the season as a whole, but defensively, Chicago owns a huge edge over Utah, over the Old Glory, I should say. There isn't a defensive stat on the board, whether it be tackles, dominant tackles, turnovers lost, lineouts, whatever, that Old Glory is better at than Chicago this season, and that's why I do give the Hounds the big edge ahead of this matchup. The other play I like for this weekend is Utah -6.5 against the Seattle Seawolves over in the West. Seattle won the last matchup between these two teams back in May, but Utah kind of crapped the bed in that game, in all honesty. They were up by double digits heading into the final 30 minutes, and they didn't score the rest of the way, so I don't expect that to happen to them once again here on Saturday, especially in a game as important as this one. Utah have continued to go from strength to strength under Greg Cooper. He's done a hell of a job at the team. 5-11 record last year. Now they're top in the West, so some turnaround there. And I just believe Utah will be too strong for Seattle this weekend, and I expect them to win and cover as a result. So let's recap today's selections on the show. We're going to take Richardson Hitchins to win by decision this weekend against George Kambosos. Current price of -185. And for our rugby selection, like I said, I like both Chicago and Utah to win and cover in their respective quarterfinal matchups on Saturday. Take your pick there, or perhaps roll them into a 2-team parlay. That's going off at around -125, I believe. So if you haven't already did the pleasure of liking and subscribing to the video, please do that now. It helps us out a ton, as I said. Drop your own best bets in the comment section down below also. Like I said last week, let's build up a bit of a boxing and rugby community over here. That'll do it from me anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. And until next time, Slán best of luck on all your bets.